All right, it's Sunday night, the weekend of October 20th, and welcome to the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. Taking a look at the price action for the indexes last week, starting with the NQ, as always. Price, what do we see there?
Well, here on the NQ, we had this retracement down and a new low put in, but you can see that they've already begun regaining that level. We've printed above it, and we expect to see this hold and continue up. If it does come down here, there is a potential for, a downtrend to come along. But right now it's looking bullish, and we'd look to see this come up and test the 750 level there, the 20,750 level. And that we would then expect to eventually push through to all-time high, potentially using the 630 level here as support after it goes above. What do you think about the NQ?
I definitely like where it's at. Like you pointed out, seeing this level hold is, just having it even be above here at this point is really nice and constructive since we fought for so long to get back above there. I do just want to point out that, literally the beginning of the week, we actually gained this and then we lost it from Tuesday into Wednesday. But, we actually ended up holding lows here and regaining, kind of losing it again and then regaining it again. So we're kind of just fighting over this 462 level, but just using historical price information. The fact that we took so long to really gain 462 tells me that that is the level that really needs to hold or be gained or be lost. So the way that I see it is, even though it looks kind of noisy here, I think that having price getting closes back above here, 462 looks much more constructive than it does bearish. I wouldn't be, we were talking about this right before we went live here, but I wouldn't be shocked to see this level tested overnight and then kind of just, even the opening Monday, see price way above this level for a definitive gain. It doesn't mean we couldn't see lower. The daily in particular, if this was the level to gain 462 again, we gain it, lose it, then if we fail this level again, new lows are likely, which would make me expect to see either 20,230 or even this box down here, low 20s. But I would expect those just to be really just short-term liquidity grabs. I mean, at this point, we've done so much reversing off the lows. It would take quite a bit more to convince me that we're not on the path toward making a new all-time high. I mean, if we just look at the weekly, we've had really, really strong closes for a couple of months in a row now. I think it's pretty likely that we'll see we might see some real volatility in this zone, but I'm expecting higher for sure, and I think the price action reflects that. We're getting some nice closes here, so I guess that's a lot of words to say. I think we're going up, but you have anything to add to that before we move on?
No, I think you nailed the lower levels real well there. I agree.
Cool. Anything different on the S&P?
Well, it is at all-time high already, but so previously, I think we talked about it coming down and then it came up, and we're holding this upper range here. So I think it's a similar look where we could see another retracement down into these lows here, but that would just be short-term liquidity grabbing, like you said, on the NQ. It really does look like it's going to continue to all-time high again. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I really like the 4 hour here because pretty clearly, 910, 5910 up here. It's pinned against there, but the thing that's really interesting about this too is every time that it's gone low, all the lows are higher than the previous lows. So we're really kind of stacking liquidity up here, which, I mean, let's be clear, we're at all-time high, so obviously, we can't just go straight up. We need to take some breaks along the way. One thing that'll be really interesting to see is first of all, this looks definitively bullish. I'm pretty confident we'll see this broken. What I'll be interested to see is if we break this, can we liquidate all the stop losses that have been put in here? And I know that's what this is, but you know, we've got more building right here with these wicks. Can we take those out? And then if we come back down here, can we hold and then continue up? Otherwise, when I see these like flat line, I don't hate to use the word, but resistance levels, you know, this level where we're seeing these stops put in, it's nice to look for like this swing failure pattern where we take out those stops, close below, and then use that level as a short entry after failing the level that we gained again. So just something to keep in mind if we are going to see some liquidity hunts down, that you could look for that trade in the short term. Long term, you know, I would just completely scratch that. I mean, the weekly chart has absolutely nothing bearish on it at all. We're just getting continuation. I mean, even the last couple of candles on the weekly chart have literally used previous highs as support, which is our definition of continuation. So short term could be some opportunities to trade counter trend. Long term, nowhere to go but up. I think we'll probably see 6,000 pretty soon here. Anything to add before we move on to small caps?
No, I think 6,000 is very reasonable.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on over to the RTY. A little bit more interesting in terms of, like, you know, we'd marked out this 2260 level and kind of expecting either it to fail that zone or gain it and continue, and that's actually the option that we got. So we ended up getting this option where we gained and went. So we'll kind of go ahead and remove these now, just since that one ended up playing out that way. What I want to see is I want to see this level up here, the higher level, 2287 or somewhere in this zone. I want to see that hold and then a continuation higher toward 2370. Obviously that is the continuation look. Doesn't mean that we can't come down here, but we fought a lot over these levels. They're big levels. I don't want to see the lower one lost. 2260, if we lost that level, I'd start to consider this likely a failure and seeing new lows put in. But if we can get like a nice wick down and a close back above 2287, or just a straight up hold of 2287 in that zone, I'm expecting higher, and this level is so important locally that I'm expecting it higher for sure. But otherwise, on the higher time frame, you know, it does just look like more uptrend. One thing to note, we kind of like accidentally stumbled upon this, but this is the monthly chart, and these wicks down are insanely bullish. They're really, really deep wicks here that end up closing all the way back up here. So deep liquidity hunts into otherwise losing level territory and then gaining it all the way back up above key levels, like the short origin here that we've talked about for a really long time, is extremely bullish. They're stealing all the liquidity from the breakout longs here and then closing it back up here. So this looks like a really nice setup to me, with all these wicks down and then continuing to push new highs. So I'm expecting nowhere but up here on RTY. What do you think?
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. I do think that here on the daily, I just wanted to point out, when we talk about getting stops, if you were shorting anywhere in here, the natural place to have a stop would be right above these wicks or right in these wicks, and we've come up and stopped those out almost entirely. There is some more here, but in comparison, the volume that exists here is nothing like the volume that existed in this area. So I do like just a small retracement and then a pump, but that's nothing that they haven't shown us that they're capable of doing, just like you pointed out. And this would still be a very good hold there at that level before they continue up and continue getting all those stops, and the force buying continues. Anything else?
No, I mean, it's kind of a straightforward chart. The nuance was interesting to discuss because, you know, all the levels we'd marked out. that needed to be gained did get gained, so there was stuff to cover, but it's really kind of just, another chart that's moving toward new highs. So despite all the nuance, I think it's pretty clear we're likely headed higher. Be hearing a lot of that tonight, but yeah, that's just what the charts are showing us. Switching gears a little bit, last time we talked about gold, we were mentioning, hey, we're right on the cusp this week of potentially retesting this important level locally. If we pull up the 4 hour, we had identified 2682-ish as the level. If we're going to make new lows and come for a retracement for shorts to then take for even lower lows, this was the level that was going to fail, or we're going to gain it and likely make a new all-time high. And if we come to the daily, we can see that on a Monday we actually ended up retracing and then taking a nice hold on the level that was gained here back on the daily. So we tested the level, came back down for a nice higher low look here, and then that was enough to send us through to new all-time highs here on gold. So we ended up getting the bullish breakout version of this level. So shorts got invalidated, longs just absolutely pumped after gaining that level. Because that was the short invalidation, then longs are absolutely on regaining that level. And because we did, we are on our way and currently making new all-time highs. Just to reiterate, we are blue sky, so there's a ton of things that could happen above us. There's no reason to call it an immediate reversal. The next fib, the only type of technical indicator we have to really kind of show us where we could end up going, is a full 400 points higher on gold. So we could get quite the move into year end here, but we'll have to see. Right now, everything indicates the next leg up, continuation. What do you think?
I feel the exact same way, that gold's going up. I do think that if we were to see a retracement and some closes down below here at 2700, I think this is a really solid level to be looking for a long, just because it's the level that put in the previous high. We immediately failed it, and that's why it turned into shorts. So there were a whole bunch of shorts in here and a whole bunch of liquidity, and so that's why it's a great opportunity to come down and test again. Not saying that's going to happen. It really does look like it's just going to continue up. There's nothing pointing towards a downtrend. Even here on the hourly, that's not quite enough. On the hourly, it could come down here to 2740 and still be looking like it's got upward potential. So, nothing's pointing towards down, but if it were to start looking that way, that's where I'd be looking for a nice long-term trade on gold, just because of the way the daily is right here with all these wicks and how they built up and used that as a short level, and then it came and got stopped out. And so that's why that's an interesting spot for me.
Yeah, I think that's, if we do get a decent sized pullback, that obviously is the perfect level to be looking at. It doesn't mean you would immediately long there, but you'd want to be going in on the lower time frames and instead of watching, see if we get a hold or a fail on a regain or something like that. But that zone is definitely still in play if we get another retracement lower. Kind of moving back to the major indexes, good old Dow. Anything different happened this week? I mean, it's again at all-time high, so anything different compared to the S&P or the NASDAQ?
Not particularly. It did come down and test this level and then immediately go back to the high. There's really not a whole lot to add. I probably wouldn't be looking to long above 42,500, but that's not much of a statement. It's going to continue up.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really too much nuance to say here. It's continuing to take continuation. So, there aren't a lot of retracements to take here when you just have this big ass bull run, right? I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, there is just, it's just taking equal lows or, continuation on holding the previous highs. So you either have to break out long, which we never do, or just be patient and wait for the right opportunity, which there aren't many of. So But it's indicative of the strength in the markets. I mean, we look at the weekly; it's just straight up. This is a crazy move the last couple of weeks, actually. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm expecting more of the same. We might even need to extend our arrow here, continuing it even higher. So, yeah, nowhere to go but up. Famous last words. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Oil. I know that we'd really mentioned a lot about on the daily wanting to see sort of 76 gained and probably taking out 77.6. Obviously that happened a while ago, and we've seen these pretty deep retracements since then. This week especially continuing that retracement down, losing 70 again. But the thing that's really interesting to me, and I'm really liking this price action, and I know we're always talking about this when it comes to oil, and we're clearly like long biased on oil, but what we would call this like the first high after putting in a higher high after a low, and then a higher low afterward, and then another high. So this zone here, this is the origin of the potential long reversal, and so that's important because after a gain, it is totally valid to retest the origin before continuing higher. And if this level holds, and only if this level holds, 68.7, this is probably the best long in the whole chart. If you got in, around 68.75, or even looking for, if we go to the 1 minute, I'm not saying buying right here at the current high, but if you could get in here on a higher low at some point, this is a great price level to kind of bank on. If this is going to put in a higher low on that time frame on the daily, testing the origin, we go for a regain up at 70.5. That's going to be a killer entry price. We can still take a really tight stop doing that, but this is totally valid price action for continuation higher. Well, not continuation, but retracing back above the level that sent us down. I want to see 76 regained. That's the big level here. This level, after we made this gain up here at 77, the level that sent us down for lower lows after that is 76. So I want to see that level taken out, and if I can see that, I will say that we have confirmed the reversal toward an uptrend. No, that's a lot of words, but need to kind of explain the nuance of why this really, really deep retracement is absolutely long valid, and kind of what we would need to look for in order to confirm that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think similarly. I see exactly what you mean about the origin there. I do think that this kind of area right here we've drawn out with the yellow lines is still exactly relevant. So if we do close above that, that's definitely going to signal the opportunity for us to get back up above 76 here. If we don't close above that, it's basically 71 to convincingly close above that area. We'll continue down a little bit lower before attempting the same thing. But these levels we drew weeks ago are still relevant now, and we can see that we've got the evidence. So I'm excited for this week on oil. It looks great to smash right where it is.
Yeah, I like the longs of these levels. I think you could be really confident given the area that you're talking about right now, 70.5 or 71. Obviously if we couldn't gain that zone, this long would become invalidated and probably see lower lows like you were saying. But I also think that if this is gained and held, you won't see this opportunity again.
Absolutely.
Very unlikely to. Doesn't mean you can't, just very unlikely to. And it's worth, if you can get in at the right technical setup, certainly worth taking a stab at here, because it can be a killer RR. We'll have to see. If we can't gain this level and we just kind of move sideways more, or we make new lows, then we'll just have to wait for more price discovery. Let's go ahead and move on to the dollar, which, we could finally say has some kind of, red candle on it. It's been literally 3 weeks of just absolute pump off 100. Kind of taking a longer look at this chart. It's not unreasonable why we kind of looked to hold in this area. I mean, there's a lot of price action in this zone previously, right? A lot of really took a long time to sort of gain this area, and when we did, we absolutely pumped. And so, of course, it's likely to defend that area as well. Switching to the weekly, you know, same thing. Really kind of a nice look here at, you know, taking these previous wicks as a level to bounce off, making a brief new low, and then absolutely pumping from there. I think the key takeaway, though, getting even more locally is, and we mentioned this last time, I think I said 104.2. I think you were saying 103.9. You know, if this pullback is any indication, it looks like you were a little bit more accurate than I was on exactly the zone that it needs to gain. But it's really kind of the same area, right? So this consolidation, the absolute last level it attempted to hold before failing to this low was 103.9. which is, I think, why it's, you know, getting there and pulling back. It front ran it a little bit, but that's clearly the correct zone. The thing that will be interesting to me is, you know, this was a huge move up, which means, you know, we could see a bigger retracement back down. I would not be shocked to see something like this, 102.8, or even with just 103 even, coming down there to, you know, hold previous gains and then continuing through. I would like to see 103.9 and 104.2, more importantly, gained before I consider anything up here on the table. Otherwise, if these fail again, it could just be more shorts, but we could also have some pretty deep retracements or higher lows. You know, the short time that it's taken for the dollar to gain this much, you know, traction again, really kind of lends to potentially seeing pretty nice big move if we do put in a nice higher low. But until we gain this zone, 103.9, I guess, you know, the weekly that looks great. We'll call it 103.9. Then, you know, I'm not ready to call new highs yet. That's the major level that we need to see gained. And if we can't, you know, until we do, new lows are likely. That's kind of what I'm looking at. What do you think?
Well, so I feel the exact same way, that it's looking like it's going up. I do think that these moves here, where they tried to hold the red box that we've outlined here, they present an opportunity for us to come down and kind of slurp this area without losing these lows that we've gained the top of the zone at. So obviously it would be a failure there, but if we don't continue up above the close here at 103.75 there, I do think we'll come down to this area and kind of slurp all the longs in order to make a retest back upward. Yeah,
it's all, you know, there's a lot of options that I see on the chart. It's just such a wide range that it's hard to say, you know, if certain levels get, like, if we test all the way down here, right? If I line this out, I mean,
right,
that's not even an invalid, you know, I mean, there's very little testing on the way up here. It's just continuation the whole way. And that's an untested origin, essentially. So this is actually valid. You know, you could see something like it failed to come back up here and then go, you know, continuation down all the way down there,
right,
and then come up for a regain of this level, and then you know, it's the deepest slurp ever for an actual gain of this zone, which is totally valid. And of course, if that does happen, it's going to start to look like, well, we're just lost everything, you know. But it's going to be an interesting couple of months for the dollar, and it's going to be really hard to definitively say if we've gained or lost, which I think, you know, that just gives more credence to really needing to look at the higher time frames here. That's why we're going to stick to 103.9. This box, like you mentioned, does line up with these higher time frames. This consolidation here, these levels attempted to hold, the level that held on the way up there with a little wick. So it's really important to stick to the major levels. There's gonna be a lot of noise on these time frames when we actually look at the lower time frames. So I think that the dollar is doing what it needs to do to potentially come back up here. I don't think it's done enough. I think that it could, you know, like to your point, do some pretty deep slurps and then continue higher. But until I'm still standing by, until we gain these levels to get close, and I mean closes above these levels up here. I'm not ready to say that we're going to come up to take out the highs yet. But it's going to be really interesting to watch. It's, I'm totally uncertain as to which way it's going to go. So I guess
good.
with that, we'll just say we'll have to see what happens our catch raise and move on to the banks. What do you think about the banks? I think this is a nice constructive move.
Yeah, I agree. I do really like a retracement down to 58.26 here. That's a level we put in a long time ago. It's where they rejected to put in this swing. Same with this one, and basically same with this one. So it's a lot of it's a level of major interest, and that's why that's where I'm looking for a long. It very well could hold, this level here. That's about 59, and continue upward. On the weekly, it definitely looks like, there's no problem with testing 56, 57 here and continuing up. There's nothing about that would be problematic on the weekly. So even if we did come down and fail it, we could come down again and then come back up and retest and regain that level, just like you were pointing out on the Dixie.
Yeah, I think a potential long setup that I see here. Number one, I really like this level, like you pointed out. But on the weekly, 56.58 or whatever is certainly a long viable thing. But we'd have lost to this upper level 58 first. So what I think the perfect setup is if we're going to lose this zone, taking the tap here, regain. You long on the regain of this, and we're banking on new highs at that point. Another thing that's really interesting is, the levels that consolidated before we actually failed and made new lows. We're actually back in the range now. I also really like the daily closes. Like, we actually have a lot of nice closes above the previous, total swing high here. That's really constructive to me. And another reason why I think this lower level is possible. I wouldn't be shocked to just see them 58.26.
Right.
Just because this is such a significant area. I mean, look at that close too. That's actually above the previous one on the weekly. So, I think we're probably going to bust 60.46, and I think we'll probably end up 4 points higher at some point in the near future. And if we've done that, then we've gained the failure that sent us to the low, and the whole downtrend even on the super high time frame is definitively gone. It's already kind of been gone, but it really, on the monthly, we really needed to regain this zone, and we are in the process of doing that. And even right here, you got to look at the monthly chart more often, because we haven't closed yet. We got 10 days, but this is a nice area if we close back above highs. Yeah, this looks as constructive as you could hope for. Really liking the price action here. Anything to add before we wrap up?
No, I think you got it all.
Cool. Well, nothing left to cover. It's going to be an interesting week. Thanks for tuning into the Trader Hub Weekly Market Review. If you like this kind of content, step to the hub and consider joining our Trader Hub Discord community server. You can find it using our link in the description. See you next week.
Till next time.